What is sexual abuse in a relationship?
This right now. I did not consent to this. Get your hand off me. Mended light. This seems like on the surface of it, a really simple question. What is sexual abuse? It's abuse of a sexual nature. But we go into the nitty-gritty of it, and there's a lot of layers to this. Because sexual abuse can take a lot of forms. It is not just having sex with someone against their will, although that is one of the most insidious forms of it. There can be overlap with physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, psychological and spiritual abuse, and they all kind of bleed together. It's hard to know when one stops and when one begins. But what is sexual abuse? I look at it ultimately as an attack on the identity of a person. In a sexually abusive relationship or a sexually abusive scenario, you are no longer a person. You are here for my gratification. No matter what your desires are, no matter what you need to feel respected, what you need to feel safe, I'm saying none of that matters to me. And all that matters to me is what I want. And so ultimately, the sexual component is a piece of the pie, but it's really about robbing someone of, or at least trying to rob someone of their sense of safety, of their sense of respect and autonomy over their own choices in their own life.
And so that can be in a partner, committed relationship. It could be in a casual dating relationship. It could even be in a predatory relationship.
Yeah, which could be with a family member, with a friend, with someone that you trusted. I mean, the fact is statistically, stranger danger, although, beware of strangers, it's more often the people that you know.
Right. Well, it's less than 5-10%.
Yeah.
90-95% of the time, it is somebody that you know.
Yeah. And so that takes us into, so what is sexual abuse? Oftentimes it involves grooming. And grooming is the process of wearing down somebody's resistances, their moral, their ethical, their emotional, their relational, their personal resistance to your sexual advances. And it can be hard to tell off the bat what grooming behaviors are, because very often they look like friendship behaviors or even
kindness, consideration,
or even courtship behaviors, right? Like if I buy you flowers, am I courting you or am I grooming you?
Yeah.
Because it could be the exact same behavior. And I could even have the same goal in mind, or at least part of it. Like, I would like to be intimate with you. I mean, the fact is, if I'm courting someone romantically, that's part of that equation. So what is the difference between courting and grooming? What do you think? I can answer it if you. I just put you on the spot. I just thought you might.
I didn't have any particular thoughts on that specific question.
And that very question, what is the difference between courting and grooming? There are people who are sexually abused and they don't know it because they have been backed into a corner. They have been led step by step to a place that they didn't want to go. And then they think, well, I was a willing party the whole time. I would say the biggest difference between courting and grooming is boundaries. Right? If I'm courting somebody, I have boundaries. This is my speed. This is what I'm comfortable with. And I also want to know theirs. If I'm courting someone, I respect their boundaries. If I'm courting someone, what is the speed that you want to go? How far are you comfortable going? What does that look like for you? That matters to me. If I'm grooming someone, it doesn't. And I might even pretend that it does, which is where it gets hard to tell. Right. But ultimately, are you doing things that you didn't want to do? If the answer is yes, then there's a sexual abuse component to this relationship. Unless, and now there may be a caveat to that, which is the other person didn't know because you never voiced it, right? But if you voiced it and they overrode it, that's sexually abusive.
Yeah. Well, and it's also important to keep in mind, let's say someone has experienced a sexual trauma, right?
Yeah.
And then all sorts of things become triggers, right? Because they were once in a place where they were traumatized and lacked safety and so on and so forth. And so even, having a normal dating relationship with someone, the other person could unknowingly trigger something, right? Yeah. And that doesn't mean that person was then committing sexual abuse, but it was a trigger. And so the person that was abused needs to have some form of communication, right?
Right. Well, because in that case, it could feel like sexual abuse because
Right.
it's bringing up all the same feelings that were there before, be it fear, be it shame, be it, whatever it may be. And so it's easy to say this is happening again. When is it?
Right.
Right. And once again, the biggest way to know is, do I draw a boundary that is respected?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, then you're dealing, because I could be dating somebody and I want to get passionate with them and I think they're on the same page as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind it's all consensual, but in their mind they don't want to upset me, they don't want to lose me, or they're afraid I might turn aggressive or violent if they don't, because that's like what history has shown. And so they start conceding without actually voicing. And so the flip side of this is, if you have been a victim of abuse, is finding your voice to draw your boundaries. The flip side of that is, if you haven't, but you're in a relationship with somebody, to always be checking, to never really assume,
Right.
right? And to be like, hey, like, are you okay with this? And then even taking an extra step and saying, if the answer is no, it's okay. Because you might say, hey, are you okay with this? And they say yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't think they have the option of saying no.
Right.
And so clarifying, like, it's okay to say no. Like, these things can get murky and confusing. And there are definitely times where it's like, yes, that is clearly sexual assault, right? I was abused, I was assaulted, I was raped. But the reason we're having this conversation, what is sexual abuse, is because sometimes it's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to talk about, there can be coercion in a committed partner relationship when it comes to
Yes.
sexual expectations, right? And just,
Marriage rape is a thing.
it is. It
And
is.
even backing away from marriage rape, because there's a spectrum here. There's sexual coercion, there's sexual
Right.
manipulation. Go ahead.
Oh, just having those conversations around that, like the principle of boundaries and saying no and saying, here's what I'm comfortable, here's what I'm not comfortable with, is included in marriage
Yeah.
or committed partner relationship.
Right. Really, it comes down to safety and respect.
And something else that's important to bring up regarding sexual abuse is, I've never met anyone who has experienced that type of abuse that to some extent didn't internalize it, to some
Yeah.
extent didn't think, well, at some point, not forever or for always, but didn't think at some point, well, it was my fault. Well, I was part of it. Well, what if I had done all these things differently? Under no circumstance is it ever the abused person's fault.
Yeah.
It needs to be the responsibility of the abuser.
Yes, absolutely. And me saying have a voice, draw your boundaries, is not saying that if you fail to do so, that you are responsible for any sort of abuse. It is merely just me saying, like, this is how you know if the person that you're with is a good fit or not. Is someone who would be abusive or someone who would be respectful? Do you draw boundaries that are honored? But ultimately, everyone's behavior, they are responsible for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and that can be a lot easier to say than to do, because so often when someone's experienced trauma, and this can be true for any type of trauma, they feel, and this isn't even a conscious thought, but that they feel that they've lost their ability to make choices, their ability to decide things for themselves.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it takes some work and some effort to get to that place of going, wait, I'm not speaking up for myself. I'm not
Yeah.
setting boundaries, because there's a subconscious, unconscious belief that they don't have the power to. Because typically with trauma, there was some circumstance where they were unable to use their voice and to make decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
So typically with trauma, there was some circumstance where their ability to make a choice was taken away.
Right.
And so there's a subconscious, unconscious belief of, well, I can no longer make choices. And so getting to that safe place physically, mentally, emotionally, recognizing you have the ability to make choices, and then deciding what it is you want, and then using your voice in a healthy way to express those choices. And if your relationship you're in or were in the past isn't safe enough to do that, then get some support, get some help. It's not your fault, but you need to be in a safe place.
Well said. Now, I mentioned earlier drawing healthy boundaries in a relationship, but what does that look like? How do you do it, and what types of boundaries should you draw? We've got a video for that, because we've got a video for everything, because that's what we're all about. if you or someone that you know have been abused sexually, you don't have to go through this alone. We've got qualified, trained therapists on our team who are able to assist you. So there's a link in the description for a complimentary 15-minute consultation. Please use it. And if you don't get help with us, please get help somewhere.
And remember to keep shining. We need your light.
And here's that video we were telling them about.
It's a good video.
It is. Check it out.